Like in Pennsylvania, I was telling you about, there was this ad that pitted Fetterman against Shapiro. They're both Democrats along the lines of crime. Listen to this.
I'm actually a Democrat. I'm running on my record on crime.
John Fetterman's record on crime is crazy.
He's not like most Democrats.
Dozens of times he was the only vote to pardon criminals.
225 times, Josh Shapiro voted against the criminals.
But Fetterman voted to release them. That's nuts.
Fetterman's way more radical than Shapiro.
What's wrong with this guy?
Well, that ad was accurate. John Fetterman has voted on the Board of Pardons to let some really bad actors out of prison. One guy who just, he murdered somebody, stabbing him 26 times with a garden shear. Josh Shapiro has not voted the same way as
why did
Fetterman.
why did Fetterman vote to let him out?
Well, that's a good question, because many people have tied Fetterman not only to this prison reform movement. He wants to depopulate the prisons, like the DA in Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, who's the subject of impeachments in Harrisburg right now, because he's really failed in his role as a top public safety officer in the city.
I hone in when you say that's a good question. And the reason I recoil a little bit from that is because it's seed planting.
Yes.
And then it leaves voters to say, that's a good question. But rather than have the onus to find out, they say, I think I'm going to take it.
It's just out there.
That's part of the, when you talk about the idea of lawsuits and who's going to bring about it, I think a lot of these ads are banking on people not wanting to follow the thread or
not
know
doing
that
the
research.
Exactly.
People don't do homework on doing all
Which
the
is
research.
Sad.
That's why some of these ads
we'll
really
find
work.
out.
Yeah, but this is why, campaigns, if Democrats want to push back on this, they've got to get on the air.
And John Fetterman is going to have to explain himself tonight about why he has voted differently than the Democrat Attorney General, Josh Shapiro, running for governor on the Board of Pardons. They've differed over 200 times on votes. I mean, Fetterman has votes, to release, convicted murderers. One guy who used a garden shears, stabbed the victim 26 times, and he voted to pardon them. I mean, so we have these types of issues. He's also wrapped himself very closely to Bernie Sanders.
Yesterday you had Senator Klobuchar on trying to downplay expectations. John Fetterman, even when he was healthy, was a terrible debater. If you go back and look at the primary debates he had with Conor Lamb and Senator Kenyatta, Malcolm Kenyatta, he got his clock cleaned. So his debate performance tonight, healthy or not healthy, is going to be viewed by voters very closely.
Sportswear giant Adidas splitting from Kanye West over his offensive anti-Semitic rants, a move the Anti-Defamation League really spearheaded. The ADL's top executive joins me next.
Adidas caves to the pressure. Will other companies cut ties with Ye over his anti-Semitic comments?
Republican Governor Ron DeSantis is both up for re-election this year and laying the groundwork for a possible 2024 presidential run, something Democrat Charlie Crist tried to make a debate flashpoint.
Will you serve a full 4-year term if you're re-elected governor of Florida? It's not a tough question. It's a fair question. He won't tell you.
Well, listen, I know that Charlie's interested in talking about 2024 and Joe Biden, but I just want to make things very, very clear. The only worn-out old donkey I'm looking to put out to pasture is Charlie Crist.
Tonight, dodging Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, refusing to answer whether he'll run for president in 2024 or whether he'll commit to serving a full term if re-elected in 2 weeks.
Will you serve a full 4-year term if you're re-elected governor of Florida? It's not a tough question.
The only worn-out old donkey I'm looking to put out to pasture is Charlie Crist.